think we are live now. So damn good. So, but of
Okay.
course, Louis, thank you very much for being part of the symposium. And obviously, the earlier conversation we had with you, I keep telling people about it every time that what work that you're doing in Peru, amazing. I
Right.
mean, amazing work that you're doing. And this is something that model has to go out all over the world, what you people have put together. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank
And
you.
but if yeah, you're going to introduce yourself, you're going to take it forward from here, and I'll come in, come in at the end whenever you ask me to come in.
Good. So I will share a little bit about well, myself. That's just only in case if somebody says, "Oh, I've been in presentation where, well, just go and nobody introduced you, right?" So, but no, I'm a mediator. I'm a former deputy secretary of conflict management with the Prime Minister Office of Peru. So I'm in charge of facilitating dialogue spaces and dialogue processes among multiple stakeholders dealing with a lot of stuff from infrastructure that is not properly built or developed by local governments and local communities, indigenous groups, and mining companies or extractive industry, oil, and so on. So in general, I help people talk, engage, have better conversations, use negotiation, consensus building strategies to advance their interests, improve business and working or trusting working relationships. So I will share a little bit. Thank you, Vikram, for this opportunity, and I will share a little bit about the work I do, and then we can go deeper into cultural traditions and cultural differences. One thing that I want to say, at least to give some context, I'm sure many of your mediators and experts that have been sharing with all these amazing moments that we're having here, they have mentioned difference between collectivism, individualism, high power or lower power distance. If we want to set up my culture, Peruvian culture, even though we have difference between rural areas and urban areas or cities and the rural or the field, we are, if we put Peru in the context of the world, we are a more collectivistic society. We have high power distance, meaning we have difference between classes and status, and then we are more polychronic and than other societies that are more monochronic, meaning we talk everybody at the same time. We crosstalk. We talk about multiple issues. You can be talking about that topic and then somebody jumps into another topic, and so it's kind of challenging engaging in organized conversations. But that's something that we do, and we deal with that. In general, I've been back in Peru since 2012, and I was helping as mediator, consultant in consensus building, several institutions, and I was helping here the Water National Authority, because there was a huge mining project that at the end never took off, but there was social unrest and a lot of demonizing process. Everybody's evil, right? The local communities are bad people. They don't want foreign investment. Well, at the end, I had an opportunity to go and talk with people to do some sort of stakeholder assessment, which is something that we do in order to prepare any type of potential dialogue process. And I was talking with people, and they were like, I was impressed that they were more open-minded and more ready to collaborative processes that many people thought. And there I was doing some kind of preparation work for a dialogue process in order to understand their interests, their needs, their concerns, their fears, their hopes, their aspirations. But very, very low the trust levels. Even people don't believe in the government, and I was helping the government, the Peruvian government. Those are more like assemblies, huge community meetings where people talk and make decisions collectively. Also around this project, there were many communities like this, and many of these big meetings were happening, and they were expressing their opposition to this mining project. And here they had a huge protest or demonstration of their concerns. I'm here talking with the people, and there were many people, because supposedly this mining project wanted to get rid of some lakes, and it was not totally explained how this was going to happen, but people go to those lakes that were going to impact or affect it, and then express themselves in those areas. Then we have other type of settings. I'm here advising this same organization, the Water National Authority, in order to help reach some agreement between a mining project and the local authorities, local farmers that were the ones opposing to this mining project. And now they reach an agreement, and they have one of the most important mining projects in Peru with good practices. And that in this table was led by Martin Vizcarra, who was the former president of Peru. And then I will tell you a little bit about this guy, because they changed governments, and then I came back to the government for some reason, but briefly, same picture, other color. Okay, so then in 2008, I spent a lot of time in Ecuador. That I was called, interestingly, by these indigenous groups, and I was called to help resolve a conflict that they had for 11 years. A mining company, a Canadian mining company, in the middle of the jungle of Ecuador with some indigenous groups, and then I was called in to help improve how they were communicating, and how to start reaching some shared understanding to reach an agreement. And after a year of dialogue, they reached an agreement to do joint exploration. So together, the mining company and the indigenous group were going to be able to discover what was the value of the underground of their fields, their territories. So the minerals underground. Now they realize that they are doing very well now. I can tell you more about that. Here I was playing nobody knew what I was doing here, because that was an interesting situation. This is the front page of the main newspaper in Peru. That was March 31st, 2019. And I was called by this community. This is the president of a local community. This community were blocking a road that mining trucks used to deliver their minerals, and they were blocking the road for 60 days, like 2 months. And they wanted to talk with the government, because this community had a problem with the mining company, and they were saying nobody's listening to us. So I help have a space with the head of the Catholic Church in Peru, and they received this community, and then the Prime Minister of Peru at that time in 2019, he came and they started some dialogue. But the government thought I was working with the Ombudsman Office of Peru, which was not true. The community thought, well, they knew that they called me, so I was more like a convener. But the Ombudsman Office thought I was working for the Peruvian government. So at some point of time, the high level priest in that area said, so how do you end up here? And I was informally the one who brought the people together. But sometimes it's the work we do. Here was, I was helping the local mayor of an important city to develop some sort of council for engaging multiple stakeholders to build a development plan. Because it's an area where in the past you had many protests against mining projects, and there were a lot of distrust between mining companies, local government, and indigenous groups or local communities. So we start doing some interesting work here, building development from like bottom up, and the core of this plan developing was the capacity of the people to get together and work together. And that's something interesting that we did, and they are still on the making. Well, in 2021, at the beginning of the year, I was called in by the new Peruvian government. We had the transition and emergency government led by President Francisco Sagasti. He became president because they impeached the former Peruvian president. So he was the president of the Congress, he came to power, and he was very neutral, I guess, bringing people to work with the government or independent people. I had done some consulting, advising, but I was never a public official. So I was called in. This is the downtown of Lima, the center of the capital of Peru. And we brought a new way to engage people. It's a new approach to social management and dialogue. So I came with 3 other mediators, well-known mediators, and we were in charge of this office managing social conflicts in Peru. So in the first 3 months, we reached 553 agreements out of 657 meetings that we had. And we start using, or the government approved a protocol or some guidelines to have digital dialogue. So we started using Zoom to have many meetings. And we had a theme saying something like, if we have social distance, we don't have to be disconnected. And even if we have a pandemic situation, we should not stop talking. So the dialogue should continue or go on. So we start having a lot of these meetings. This is one example. Here we were in Zoom, and this was half digital, half in person, face to face. And this is a group of teachers in the rural area. This is the other way, the other side of the screen. This is where the platform, how we can see our computers, and on the other side we had these teachers that they were trying to get more independence to do more cross-cultural education in the jungle region of Peru. Here we were like, this is another interesting area of Peru where you have a huge dam, and it was rainy season, and the water levels were rising up, and there was a potential risk of the dam can break down, and then many people would be in jeopardy. So kind of water was going to either or spill from the top of the dam or break the dam down and then get a lot of people in danger. But the people didn't believe that this was going to happen. What I'm telling you is the explanation from the scientists and the government. These local communities, they were saying, well, Mother Land take care of us. The lake always took care of us. This is not going to happen. So we don't want to even listen to the government. So this was the first time that we, after a lot of talking, we start persuading the community that there might be some opportunities in at least listening to the government. So they said, okay, let's talk. And this is regional local government, and the community said, okay, we can have some conversations. And this was the first time that the government here and the local community start talking about, okay, let's talk about this problem. And we had even like doing ground rules and setting up the how can we talk better, or how can we start listening to each other? And then we reached an agreement to start a dialogue process. That was one situation. This is another situation in another area of Peru where I was with my colleague Cesar Bedoya and the mayors of the cities, for 3 cities where the mayors and the communities were protesting against 4 mining projects, and they were saying, oh, you are polluting the environment, we are not getting enough benefits, and there's a lot of corruption. And then that was a moment of bringing all the issues to the table to start having building an agenda to start addressing the problem. This is the people, this is the same screen, the Zoom, and the people is in front of me here. And we are facilitating this conversation. This is how our other colleagues look at us through Zoom. So we were in this space. This is another interesting situation. This is also the jungle of Peru, but this is in the middle of nowhere because we flew to an area with little airplane, and we had to talk with these 3 leaders that were representing all these local community, because they were accusing the mayor of corruption. So they took over the city hall, and the city hall was they were giving custody. That's what they were saying. That's what they said. The government was saying, well, you are kidnapping the city hall. And they were saying, well, we're just giving security to the evidence that the mayor is corrupted. So they were in the street for a long time, like day and night. So I arrived with this is the ombudsman office, this guy from the ombudsman office. There were some police over here. I came here with another colleague, Gustavo Bustamante, a great guy who knows a lot about the Amazon and the jungle in Peru. So we start having here a conversation saying, hey, let's try to talk to address your concerns. But here in the open, we cannot talk. So what if we go to some other more reserved area with lower quantity of people and lower risk of COVID, and let's start a conversation. And they said, okay, let's try to talk. And then we turn around, we explain this to the community, and the community said, okay, you guys can go. So then we start here having this conversation. These are other officials from the government, and these are the leaders of the community. And now we have, it's interesting because after all this engagement, as mediator, I end up being on the phone with some of these people after the problem is resolved, and we have a friendship relationship. And that's kind of an interesting thing, or a different thing between our culture, our role as mediators. We always say that we need to be neutral, independent, and better if you don't know anybody. But here is kind of the opposite, or the other way around, in which people prefer to know you as a mediator. So instead of being neutral or independent, it's like, it's better if you know everybody and you have some sort of relationship with everybody, because that kind of will build or will increase the trust in the process. Anyway, we can talk more about that. Here is another, this is a regional government, like the governor of Cusco, in the office of the governor of Cusco, because we have some coca leaf farmers, and they were pushing, protesting, asking for many things. And this special region has been well known because they kind of put prime ministers, and their protests forced the government to change ministers. So that was an interesting situation. And then here she was leading our office. This is the agricultural vice minister, and myself with this kind of Lego head getting off COVID. So after having this deeper conversation of understanding the problem, trying to define agenda items as a normal mediation process, then we reach an agreement to start a process. And the agreement includes mainly the opportunity to develop some sort of consulting group with local farmers in order to develop a new approach or a new system to manage the procurement and the buying of coca leaves, which is legal. I mean, coca leaves are the leaves of the plant. Those leaves are used to make cocaine, which is a narcotic, a drug. But this leaf is also used for ancestral purposes, and people use it as a, what can I say, as an energizer. It's a natural thing. The Incas used it for a long time, but it has different uses or ancestral uses. If you mix it with gasoline and other bad stuff, you have cocaine. But then we start a process of, and the government is the only one who can purchase this product, this plant. So we start a process with the coca leaf farmers and local mayors in order to redesign a better system for procurement, purchasing. And this is kind of almost the end of the process, where we presented a proposal after working together and developing this new system. And we are all these red people with red shirts. This is myself and people from my office, because it's a complex situation, different interests, different purposes, and we are mediating, facilitating this space. It's a big joint problem solving meeting. There you go. And here, this is another of those digital dialogues where myself is in the screen, that big screen, look like a movie theater kind of, and I'm with the local community talking about a problem that they had with this mining company and this local community, and that's it. And this is the local leader from the same area of people well represented by these indigenous costumes. And so this is the same area in another process in which we use digital dialogue, we use Zoom, but sometimes things don't work because we don't have good connection. As was happening earlier for me, I couldn't get connected earlier. So this was a very important meeting. People finally agreed to say, okay, let's give a try to this digital dialogue. And at the end, during this conversation, the connection went down, the dialogue cracked down, and they have an argument. The mining, the people from the mining ministry left the place. The local community felt neglected, abandoned by the government. People from my office remain a little bit more time. They kind of apologize for all the situation, and that dialogue still in the process and going on. Well, after what was June, I think, we had Peruvian elections in Peru. And it was a very polarizing situation. And you have like 50-50 voting or votes for the two candidates. And here I'm with the cardinal of Peru and other people from my office. Giselle Guamani, she was the head of our office, and Juan Ramon Sola is a great guy doing strategic communication consultant. So we were trying to figure out how can we get help from the church to reduce the risk of physical conflict between the two parties that were going to the second round for the election. We had elections, two people won the first and second place, and they had to run off to decide who was going to be the president. Then by almost the end of the government, by July, we did a national dialogue, and we call it Peru Dialogue, like how Peru have dialogue in order to improve or heal relationships. And that's it. So how the local community in all the country was going to be able to heal the relations, because it was very, very terrible. So we had a lot of these Zooms, and even the president had the closing of this process. And the Peruvian president, that was one of the last presentations he had. And he left. And then we had a new government. And the new government was elected. He won the elections. he said, oh, digital dialogue looks good, but we need to be present in every place they call us. So here you see myself and the new prime minister going in a national Air Force airplane and then getting jumped into an helicopter to go to this community and start having, okay, let's set up this space and let's set up the rules to have an agreement to start some dialogue in order to address the conflicts that they have. Also, regarding mining company, local communities, and that's it. And accusing of pollution, we don't get the benefits, they don't consult us to do the projects, and that's what's going on. Then we go back to Lima, the capital, very different setting, and here we are addressing or setting up the working groups that we were going to have in Lima. I mean, in Lima, we were developing or designing the process how we were going to help this problem around these communities. Here, this is the government palace. We receive 11 indigenous communities in order to address other problems that they have, also with mining companies and local communities. This is the prime minister, and these are some local leaders with traditional hats and yeah, anyway. Then we said, okay, we are going to have a dialogue. And then we had to go to the local areas a week or 2 weeks later. And new people show up saying, hey, we also wanted to be included in this process. So we had to listen to these guys, new stakeholders coming to this process. And then we said, okay, the local communities, the 11 communities wanted to have another preparation session. And we went to the local area, and then we start having some, this whole meeting was to prepare the agenda for the dialogue that we were going to start. Thus, finally, we agree on the agenda. We celebrate reaching the agreement around the agenda, public officials, local leaders. And this was the formal meeting with the Peruvian Prime Minister. This is outside the room, the area, and they were having these conversations. And also that was with the local communities, but also with the city hall, with the mayor. They also wanted to have a conversation. So that was done over there. And this is one of the last engagements I had. This is local communities. This is different government infrastructure, management, utilities, mayor office, regional governor office. And this whole meeting was because the local community wanted to get rid of this mayor, because the mayor and the governor are not fulfilling their obligations or leave all these infrastructure, roadways, highways, and water and sanitation, and even an oxygen plant to help address the COVID situation. All those infrastructures were left and not built anymore. A lot of corruption issues. So we were called as government to help them facilitate the conversation to address some of these concerns. And here, other type of setting, we help the Peruvian the country of Peru is divided by several regions, and in each of these regions, the police, the Ministry of Interior, which is the guys who are in charge of the police and the local, in the security inside the country, they were leading some spaces to create this regional committee for the prevention and management of social conflict. And they invite different type of people or different type of organizations. And we were here invited to kind of co-facilitate this space. And they have set up these working groups in all the country to prevent or address potential conflicting situations as we have seen. So that's kind of the context in which we can go deeper and talk, but that's it, my friend Vikram. And
okay, now first thing what we have to do is we have to take an extension from Rafael. His session time has started. He was supposed to be 6:30. So first we'll ask him for an extension. Rafael, are you giving us some extension?
Sure, no problem. Happy to hear my good friend Luis. How are you,
hola,
Luis?
Rafael. How are you? Good to see you.
Just remind you some of your good work, and I was a witness of that last part when you had that conversation with the president or the past president from Peru. So cheers to you. I'm clapping here all the time to you. So keep going. No problem.
No, he's doing wonderful work. I keep saying that the work that he's doing has to be something which has to be duplicated all over. So, because actually what happened was Louis came in a little late. He had some connectivity issue. So he started late. So whatever you tell us, it's your time, Rafael, whatever you say at whatever time, whenever you feel. Yeah, we can go on.
Right.
Whenever you tell us, we'll go, because with Louis we can keep talking. So that is. But now you have to tell us the dynamics of the whole thing, the whole process. When you come in, developing the trust, the relationship, you looking at you as, are you a government person? What all that? I mean, you know the dynamics. Will you please take us through that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's no more magic that, of course, our toolbox are key, our processes and procedures and way to engage is key, but the most important, I guess, magical piece is our own capacity to connect with the other one as human beings. So that's, I think that's it may seem so simple, but sometimes life gets so in a hurry and we want to be like task oriented. Let's fix this, let's do this, or let's do that. Or you have different type of, I don't know, you see people differently or so different than you that you say, well, I prefer not to mix with these individuals. So you have many of those things that prevent or build huge barriers to connect with the other one. So I think the key or the secret is to be genuine and treat other people fairly. That's it, to connect with people. Be willing to be to take the risk to be silly if you are considered silly, right? It's like, be yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But only one question I've always had, which I think I asked you in that also, which you of course did reply to, but I'll ask you again. Who should be on the table? How do you decide that? How do you, for me is a very important part.
Right. I have like 4 questions. It's like, who's suffering? Who's really concerned about the situation? Who has information? Who may help to resolve this problem? Who has official or the power to make decisions? And who is able to block any sort of agreement? Who are the ones who will prevent that nothing happened. Even we reach an amazing agreement, but if the guys who can prevent this implement in reality or on the ground, if they are not part of the process, we are losing time. Yeah.
But I mean, now, of course, because you're doing it at that scale, but has that now trickled down at the community level, be it the government officials or otherwise? Has that culture developed there that they're having those dialogues, or you have to come in and do that all the time?
We have to do it all the time because, yeah, people, I guess people get confused with, oh, let's have some dialogue. Yeah, we're going to just talk. And talk is easy, right? If people think, yeah, we're going to talk and we are going to resolve everything. But there are many things that get into this talking because you start demonizing the other one. You start having your own perception and your own view of the problem. And people don't agree on, I mean, people don't take the time or to jointly define a problem. If you don't have the same problem, if we are like 5 people here, and if the 5 or 6 people or 10 people that we are getting together, each of us has a different definition of the problem, we are going to bring solutions, or 6 or 12 or 20 different solutions. So at least we need to first agree on the problem. And we need to jointly name the problem. And that's why it's important that at the beginning, we share all our concerns with this situation. Let's mention what issues bring us together and how we can resolve it together. And I guess together is one of these other words, right? Join or together and yeah.
Well, yeah. No, but the way I look at it is that, look, this is a top-down kind of thing, that in these situations, you've been sent down, Prime Minister's office and everything. But bottom up, is there some development happening there?
What do you mean?
That at the community level, where there are people who, I don't know, I mean, I'm not saying appointed by the government. I'm not saying they should be chosen by the communities and be available. Is there some activity there, or how do you see that happening?
Well, for these big complex problems that I mentioned, that I share some pictures, you have a lot of advocacy groups, and they don't have a collaborative approaches to resolve these problems. So you have many people on the ground who wants to use power in order to fix the problems. In local communities in Peru, yes, you have some guys that are called peace, just, you know, judge of peace or judge of peace, are like people, local people that are identified by the community, and they have people trust in these individuals, but these individuals are like informal, or if you want, ancestral mediators, facilitators, but they just address interpersonal issues. They do not address these big problems. And you have a lot of people fighting and using power because normally they don't believe in the court system, so they resort to force, to actions, and sometimes you end up in violent situations. So the thing is that we are brought in to bring stuff. Either we go back or we use the court system, the right-based approach, and we talk about rights, or we go deeper and talk about interests, concerns, fears, hopes, aspirations, and that's where we can have a cool space to foster some dialogue.
No, but tell me, how can we use these people who are already trusted by the communities? I'm not saying the large projects, yes, definitely it'll be a different ball game there. But otherwise, how do we use them and bring them into the system? Because that's how I see the future for a long time, because to get the right people is going to take time. So I feel these are people already identified. How do we do that?
I think, okay, let me go this way to answer your question. There are different ways to promote mediation, at least from the Western way of view, or the American style of viewing mediation development is like, okay, this is the process. We go to some place in the world, and this is how mediation works, and this is how you have to do it, right? Other way around is we have some tools, some expertise addressing some complex problems. So let's go to an area, let's go to understand the problem, let's go and see and understand how they deal with these issues that they have, and then maybe we can add some of our experience helping addressing these problems with collaborative approaches. So with that second approach, I think we can help these people that are already in place trying to help address problems or conflicts. We just need to help them with some experiences or building a little bit or making bigger their toolbox, maybe different frameworks or different ways to approach it. But kind of the system is already in place. So we need to, how to bring the mediation view into these I don't know, institutions or people already working on that. That's my thought.
Yeah, because this is one interesting thing which is coming up, and people are working on this, because there was James in the morning who is working on that in Kenya. He's looking at these traditional people and talking to them. One is, of course, sensitizing them to the changes which have happened in society. So because they've been deciding for people to a certain extent, they've been telling them what to do. So changing that aspect also is one thing. Then, of course, there are social issues which have changed over time. Do women get a voice or not? Like he said, women mediators are not looked at in the traditional community. They will not even have a woman heading anything, so they won't listen to her also. So those changes in society which have to be brought in, maybe. But I still feel that at least the individual is identified. I mean, that's one starting point that we have. So there is trust there, and then building around it, I think, is a possibility. But do you want to take us through in terms of the traditional concept of mediation? These are the people you say that have identified with the community, or is there other activity which is happening in Peru on mediation?
Well, yes, we have mediation. Like 20 years ago, they wanted to start developing mediation, like pre-court mediation. And it's like more like civil mediation, civil court mediation, family mediation. And they call it conciliation, but at the end, I don't know. Officially, this stuff exists. The system or the attorneys, I'm always introduce myself as a reform attorney, but I think the attorneys in Peru didn't allow this to work as it should. So attorneys start looking at this mediation as a requirement or a checklist requirement to start a legal process. So it's like you have a system. It's like you have the hardware, but you don't have the software. Somebody was saying that, I don't know where I read this, somebody was saying that democracy is the hardware and the capacity of engaging dialogue, that's the software of democracy. But if I make a simile, it's like, yeah, you have a hardware of this is the mediation system, this is how it works, it's a requirement to start a dialogue process. But if people don't have a collaborative approach or the right mindset to engage in constructive conversations, this is not going to go anywhere. So, yeah.
But how do you see it? I mean, is there a culture of mediation existing, or how do we move towards it? Peru or otherwise, everywhere. I mean, because with so much experience that you had, how do you see that happening?
How do I see this happening? I have a plan. I have a hope or a wish, which is we need to talk about mediation or collaborative negotiation or interest-based approaches with kids from the beginning, because if we already grew up, we are already messed up in order to address the problems. And we have this natural either-or thinking. And we need to teach our kids how to better engage and resolve their problems. And I guess that will end up, we will have better world citizens if we teach kids to negotiate and have some constructive dialogue. At least they will be more open to say, oh, mediation. Okay, let's go. It's like my father used to say, if you have a problem, you have three people where you need to go. Either you go to the priest, either you go to the shrink, the psychologist, or either you go to the attorney, because these three people are the ones who are going to resolve your problems. Well, I wish that we have a time in which people think of, if they have a problem and they cannot fix by themselves, they think, well, we need to go to a mediator before going to an attorney, right? It's like, drop the guns and let's talk. Yeah,
that's the main thing, and that's what I've been also looking at. And I keep giving the US example, the US model, which is, according to me, not worked. That people are not going directly to a mediator; they're going to a lawyer, and lawyer is taking them to court, and through the court system, then a mediator comes in. So I think that chain should not happen at all. But interestingly, I tell you, Louis, that when I look at the whole situation with the children, I am saying that at one point we start thinking that we are going to tell the children how to resolve the disputes among themselves. I am saying they're already doing it. They know how to do it. We instead should not bring in our thought process on how it has to happen, because maybe they know lots better. And I'm telling you, they know lots better than us. So in that sense, I think from our end, we should just let them be. Look, I am saying about the mediation part. Other thing, you give them all the teaching and training on non-violent communication, on being good human beings and all that. Yes, not a problem, do that. But when it comes to mediation, they already know how to do it, and they're doing it, and they already identified the person who's going to do it. We just have to take that forward.
And I agree with you. And then I may say, instead of, we have to, okay, let's teach less about confrontation, because that's what we normally do in society. So yeah, I agree.
Because I think the whole process and everything is all available out there. They know how to do it. We are just not wanting to let them be, because there is still that whole control aspect of it everywhere, and that is what they should not get. They should not get this feeling that someone else is there out there and we are working under that umbrella. No, you are independent, you know how to do it. Because I was talking to this person from Nigeria in one of my episodes, and I was asking, his son was there, asking him that, do you help your friends to help them resolve the disputes? He said, no. I said, why? Because the teacher will otherwise take action against me. I mean, scared of the teacher. Imagine, you are not going to help someone you know only because of that authority figure there. So we have to remove those authority figures in general. So, but otherwise, Louis, anything else you want to take us through? Last words, I think.
Nah, let's be more humans. That's it. And listen to understand instead of listen to reject. let's have deeper conversations. That's it from me.
Perfect.
Right?
No,
Okay.
absolutely. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you
Very
very
much,
much.
guys.